Hi guys, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. This is Ajilam here. Thank you so much for always coming back to watch my videos. I really appreciate you all, and if you're new to my channel, kindly subscribe and turn on the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post new videos. So for today I am going to teach us on how to make an off-the-shoulder Basque waistline ball dress for a 10-year-old baby girl. So if you're interested, keep on watching. I'll be using for this project. Here I have half yard of a gold satin, and this is half yard as well, though it's a leftover, but it's just equivalent to half yard. And here I have my 3 yards of taffeta. If you like, you can use satin, but I'm using taffeta because I don't want this dress to have a lot of weight. And here I have my 3 yards of organza. So as usual, I'm going to start by marking out the pattern. Here I have my pattern paper, so I'll start by marking out the bodice lengths. Okay, I'm going to draft the basic bodice. From here we'll determine the shoulder parts of this dress. So I'm going to mark out the bodice length, which is 13.5. Like I said earlier, I'll be using a 10-year-old baby girl measurement for this dress. So now I'll just mark out the bodice length. So here I have the bodice length draft marked out. This is 13.5 here, and as you can see, I left 2 inches here, and this is what I'll be using to create the Basque effect. So for this part, you can decide to make it 3 inches or 2.5, okay, but you need to make it short so that it will not really disturb the baby. So now I'm going to draft a basic bodice first. From there we'll determine the of the shoulder as well as the princess dart. So I'm going to start by marking out the armhole measurement, which is 6.75, or rather 6.5, because the shoulder measurement is 13. So this is 6.5. I'm going to mark that out to a straight line. So here I have the armhole line. The next thing to do is to mark out the chest line. This is upper chest line anyway, it's also called a chest line. So this chest line that I want to mark out is actually the line that crosses that passes across, or that is exactly on the nipple point. Okay, if it's an adult, they call it chest point. So I'm going to mark that out now. It's usually 1 inch below the armhole line. So this is the point, 7.5. I'll just mark that out, then connect to a straight line as well. Alright, we have all our lines marked out. I am going to start by marking out the shoulder measurement. Now the shoulder measurement is 13, half of that is 6.5. So this is 6.5. I'm marking exactly here because we are going to determine the off the shoulder from this basic bodice. Okay, so I'll just come down by half an inch for the shoulder slope, and the neck width I'll be using is neck width of 3 inches. Okay, or let me just make it 2 3/4 because I don't want it to be too wide. So this is the point, and then neck depth of the same 2 3/4. If you like, you can also make it 3 inches for both the neck width and the neck depth. So I'm going to connect the neckline now, and also connect the shoulder slope to the neck width. Okay, once that is done, I'm going to mark the same thing I did here, which is the shoulder measurement. I'll bring it down here. This is 6.5, and then I'll connect it to the shoulder slope. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to determine the midpoint that we have here. This is 6, the midpoint is 3, and then I'll go in by half an inch. Okay, And then here I'll be marking out the chest measurement. The chest measurement is 32. 32 divided by 4 is 8 inches. So here I have my 8 inches. So I'll first connect the line before we now determine the princess darts as well as the off the shoulder parts. Okay, so this is what I have now. So now the next thing to do is to check what I have from this point. So I'm going to place my ruler there now and move it slowly to know what I have at that point. It is 7 3/4. So I'm going to get the midpoint of that by placing my ruler this way. Okay, so the midpoint is right there. This is the midpoint. So on this point now, I'll just go down by 1/2 inch. Okay, I'll go down by 1/2 inch. Then on this chest line, like I said, I'll be marking out the chest span measurement. The chest span measurement is 6.5. Half of that is 3 1/4. So this is 3 1/4 here. So I'm going to connect from this point to this point now. Okay, so this is what I have. I will also mark out the chest span measurement on this waist line, which is 3 1/4, and then I'll connect it back to this chest line. Okay, so this is what I have here. So I am going to make this to be in a straight line. It's not supposed to have any curve because, you know, kids, they are still, the chest or the breast is still flat. So you just make it straight. Okay, it should not be pointy. So this is what I have there now. So on this point, I will go up by 3/4 inch. This is the point, and then I will connect. Okay, so this is what I have on this point. Straight to this point, the next thing to do is to add my sewing allowance, and I'll be making it 1 inch. So this is my sewing allowance. I will now connect that point to this. This is now the new armhole. So I'll just connect, and we are almost done with this part. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to mark out the waist measurement. The waist measurement is 30. 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. So this is 7.5 here, and I'll also add my 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Okay, now you can see that on this part I did not add any sewing allowance. All you need to do after cutting out, when you want to place on your main fabric, you make sure to add a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, whichever one you prefer using as your seam allowance. You make sure to add it. So I'll just connect now to a straight line, and we have determined the princess dart. Now we are going to determine the off the shoulder and also the new neckline. And if you're watching up to this moment, please like this video, share. It's going to really help me a lot. And our online classes are on. If you're interested to participate in any of our online classes, just check the description box for a number to reach out for more details on that. Okay, so now we are going to determine the off the shoulder. Now this is our midpoint, the first midpoint that we determine, which is on this line. If you like, you can also connect that line straight, but I'll just come down a bit from that point. I'll just come down by 1/2 inch, and then I'll check what I have there. That is 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark it out here and connect to a straight line this is the line that we'll be using now for the shoulder parts of this dress. So I'll just connect to the straight line. So here, as you can see, I have my line connected. It's time to determine the neckline, and the neckline that we'll be using is called the Sweetheart's neckline. So all I'm going to do now, from this line now, I am going to mark out 1 1/4. You can also decide to make it 1 inch or 1 1/2, depending on how deep you want the neckline to be. So for mine, I'll be marking out 1 1/4, which is at this point. This is 1 1/4. So I'm going to connect it to this line. So I'll be taking my armhole curve and just turn it, as I'm doing now, just to connect it to this line to give it the neckline that we really want. So I'm going to place it this way now, and I'll connect. Okay, just like that. You just give it a slight curve. Okay, so this is the first the neckline that I'll be using. That's the Sweetheart's neckline. This is how you go about it. Now you can see that at the end of the day, this part will no longer be needed. This is what we are going to work with. Okay, so before all of that, this is the first one. I am going to mark out, from this line now, I am going to connect it again using the same shape back to this point. This is the armhole point. So I am going to take this now, okay, and just connect it from this point to that point there. Okay, this is just to add. On this point, I'll be adding the gold fabric that I showed you earlier. It will just come in just here. This is where we're using it. So I will just connect it there, as you can see, and we are almost done with this front pattern. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to create the Bask effect. So to do that, I'm going to bring this line down. So this is 3 1/4. I'm going to connect it straight. Okay, and then from this waistline now, this point here, I will just connect it straight to this point. This is how to create the Bask effect. Okay, like I said earlier, you can decide to make yours deeper. I don't want mine to be too deep. That is why I used 2.5 inch. Okay, sorry, I used 2 inches for the Bask effect. You can decide to use 2.5 or even 3 inches, depending on the age of the baby anyways. So now our front pattern is ready. All I need to do now is to cut it out, and when I'll be cutting on my fabric, all these parts, we'll be adding our sewing allowance, okay, for this part, and the princess dart, you add your sewing allowance, as well as the waist area and the shoulder. Sorry, we don't need this part again, so you just add your sewing allowance just here, the princess dart, and it's just okay because we've added already for the side sewing allowance. So I'm going to cut this out and then show you how to cut the back pattern before we proceed to the down part of this dress. All out, this is what it looks. Okay, this is it, and this will be coming in here. It's going to be like this. Okay, and this is the princess part. Now you can see that the shape is already formed. Okay, so I'm going to keep this aside and then show you how to cut the back pattern. So here I have my paper, and this is the bodice length that we're working with. This is 13.5. Remember, I did not add sewing allowance for the shoulder and the waist area. I am just using the exact measurement. So this is my 1 inch for my zipper allowance. Okay, so now I'm going to mark out the armhole. Remember, we were working with 6.5 as the armhole line, okay, and then 7.5 as the chest line. So I am going to mark this out now and connect to a straight line. So here I have the armhole and the chest line marked out. So, and remember that in the first part, that's the front pattern, I used 4 inches, that is for the to determine the of the shoulder. So I'm going to mark that out. This is 4 inches. I'll just mark this out and connect to a straight line as well. Okay, so this is the time to mark out the shoulder measurement. So I'm repeating almost what I did in the front pattern. This is 6.5, which is half of the shoulder measurement, and I'll also mark the same on the armhole line. This is 6.5, and then we connect. Okay, so here is the armhole, sorry, the half inch for the shoulder slope. Okay, so I'm going to connect. Okay, so the next thing is the midpoint. To determine the midpoint, this is 3, and I'll also go in by half an inch. So for this part is really optional. I prefer going in by half an inch because I love the way it's the shape that it gives to the back pattern. So this you can ignore and just connect it the usual way that you just connect straight to this line. So the next thing is to mark out the chest measurement, which is 8. That is 32 divided by 4, and that is the point there. I will just connect. So after connecting it, this is what I have. I am using this pattern this way so that you understand easily. At the end of the day, this part will not be needed, but you know how to cut it out. So now the next thing to do is to determine the back neckline. If you like, you can leave it straight, but for me, I'll just come down by half an inch, sorry, 1 inch, because I want it a little down and I want it to be a kind of round, a little round neckline for the back. So this is the 1 inch. I am going to use this now to connect it back to this point, because this is where we'll be cutting out. This part will not be needed again. So I will just use this to connect, just to give it that slight, curve at the back. Okay, so now this is the back neckline. Now the next thing to do is to mark out your darts and the waist measurement. So for the darts, all I'm going to do now is on this chest line, I'll mark out this half of the chest band measurement, which is 3 1/4. That is what we're using, and I'll mark the same on this waistline and then connect to a straight line. Okay, and then I'm going to mark 1/4 inch on both sides for the dart allowance. So this is the point here and this is it, and I'll just connect it back to this point. Okay, so now I'm going to add my side sewing allowance. So here I'll add my 1 inch, and I'll also mark out the waist measurement, which is 7.5. that is 30 divided by 4, and then I'll add my 1 inch for my sewing allowance, and then I'll connect. Okay, so after connecting, now on this point I will come up, I'll mark half an inch and then connect it back to this point. This is so that at the end of the day, after sewing, you're going to have a perfect fit at the back side of the dress. So I'll just connect now. Okay, and it's as easy as that. So when cutting this, I'll just cut from here. Remember that I did not add my sewing allowance, I only added on the sides. Okay, so I'm going to cut it off this way. So So this is what we'll be using for the back pattern. Okay, and here you can see that the front and the back pattern is ready. So this video is going to have another part because if I want to put everything here, it's going to be too long. So watch out for the sewing part as well as the how to cut the lower part of this dress. It will be coming up very soon. Okay, so that is how easy it is to draft and sew, and just to draft anyway because the sewing part is coming up soon. So that's it for today. Please subscribe and I'll see you all soon.